You just found a regular clay pot, and then you realize that its odd shape can produce electricity, not in a modern lab, not in a factory, but almost 2,000 years ago. In 1936, a group of archaeologists outside Baghdad uncovered a minuscule ceramic pot. There was something unusual inside: a copper cylinder, an iron rod, add to a sealing compound of bitumen. The apparatus was quite simple, yet it led to an astonishing stream of thought. Might you turn it into a kind of primitive battery? The idea was popularized following the assertions by Wilhelm Koenig, an archaeologist and director of the Iraq Museum, that similar objects could have served as galvanic cells. The hypothesis was controversial from the beginning, because there was a very definite puzzle. There was no ancient owner's manual that said what the vessel was for. There was no written record of an electrica device, and none of the infrastructure you need to build a city in ice, including the power system to run this thing, was found with it. Yet, the basic chemistry seemed to work. An acidic or salty liquid is introduced to the container if a detectable electrical potential could be produced from the two different metals in the brass case, copper and iron. Modern scientists have replicated versions of the object, and even a few experiments have produced a tiny electric charge. So, did they really stumble upon an ancient battery, or was the similarity a coincidence? That question would remain without answer. To understand the mystery, so researchers had to recreate the object. The basic construction was surprisingly simple: a ceramic vessel, a copper cylinder, an iron rod, and a liquid that can act as an electrolyte, vinegar, salt water, or some other corrosive liquid. Maybe the two metals could react with each other. When the metals are joined, you can measure a small electrical potential. The experiment worked, but there was a nastier problem. Production of electricity may not originate with the design of the ancient device able to do this. You can also see what an object can do by a modern recreation that shows advanced usability. But it can't automatically tell us what the people who originally made the object imagined. This differentiation became pivotal in the Baghdad Battery controversy. Certain scientists suggested possible uses: electroplating, electrochemical tests, maybe even for medical or ritual purposes. But nothing has yet been conclusively established. Then, an experimental variation has been novel. Previous reconstructions had been made may not have been able to include all the nuances of the original device. The scientists claimed a more advanced reconstruction yielded a higher electric potential. In one recent experiment, the restored device produced in excess of 1.4 volts at a current. That was enough to produce bioelectrochemical reactions you can watch. That does not mean that this results clears up the riddles, however. It just proves something really fascinating. It is possible for the arrangement to be maintained as an electrochemical cell. The question is it? What was its real purpose? That was really what it was used for.
For decades, the Baghdad Battery has divided researchers. Perhaps it was actually intended as an early galvanic cell, is one option. Human craftsmen, the so-called accidental discoverers of what, perhaps they were, something else. And they came to understand how to do it, too. And another theory is that of electroplating. A weak electric current could theoretically be utilized to apply a thin metallic coating to another object, not inconceivable at least. But there is a big problem. The most persuasive, yet highly unconventional proof to indicate the possibility that the technology was really applied for electroplating in this region at that very span of time in history, are what are now being referred to as the Baghdad batteries. Another possibility: the item may have simply nothing to do with electricity. It may have been a vessel, a ritual object, or somewhere for which the original use has simply been lost. And perhaps that's even more important. The Baghdad Battery does not prove that the ancients had an electricity system. There is no sign of such an ancient power station. No electrical grid. No ancient lighting capability. And no known technology remotely equivalent to electricity in these days. What a VE we got! Is an enigma wrapped in an enigma. A kind of cell that might produce a small EMF. and an application that's unclear. Today, the Baghdad Battery continues to inspire experiments. Scientists rebuild the apparatus. Chemists study the reactions. Its historical setting is investigated by archaeologists. And the historians want to know, what did it really make? They must have thought it was an ancient form of electrochemistry, but without knowing what they were doing, like electricity in the modern scientific understanding. Maybe they were done in by something accidental. Or perhaps the object was a very different kind of tool. We just don't know. And this what makes the Baghdad Battery so fascinating. Because 2 millennia ago, indeed, Milo Bar, someone made a thing whose shape can still be taken to make a thing in the right circumstances. But the maker of that path left no signage. The artifact survived. It did not its use. In what reads like the baked crust in between early craftsmanship and the renominating science, in the alchemic disintegration of science and new ideas, in culture evolving, Egyptian craftsmen whisper their devastation in the wind, fortified and carved as sweets and scientific principle by ancient and most recent is just now and then, the motivational and terrifying question pages that has remained history. Definitely one more mystery remains. Did they really find electricity? Or could it be that we misunderstood what they left behind?